Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Michelle Fondin. I'm the author of the brand new book, The 8 Limbs of Yoga for Modern Times, a practical guide to the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. You can get any of my 12 published books on Amazon. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for subscribing below and make sure to click on that bell so you don't miss a new video. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. We are here for an episode of spiritual wisdom. I'm here with my Padawan Grogu right here, and I've got my Grogu tumbler with Ticino Dandelion Caramel Nut Tea. This is one of my faves if you've been following my channel for some time. So hot, so good, so caramelly. Today's topic, we're talking about how religion gets it wrong so much of the time, and I'm going to explain why. I have nothing against religion whatsoever. I feel that many religions are a stepping stone toward spirituality. So please do stay tuned if you're interested in understanding why religions get it wrong much of the time. But first, I want to invite you to join me on June 5th of 2025 for a Zoom call, a free Zoom call. It's an info session for my Immersion into Meditation course. I'm going to be doing a book giveaway, but you have to register for this webinar that's happening on June 5th, 2025 at 5 p.m. Pacific time. The link is below so that you can pre-register for that webinar. Let's talk a little bit about why I decided to talk about this. So this book is called the Upanishads. It is an interpretation, a translation of the ancient Vedic texts called the Upanishads from about 2000 BC. 2000 BC. So that would make these ancient texts about 4,000 years old. Now the word Upanishad means sitting at the feet of a teacher, a guru, a spiritual master. And in ancient times, spiritual seekers, usually young boys starting around the age of 11 or 12, right before puberty, they would go to forest academies in the Himalayas, I don't know how you would pronounce it, to study with a guru, to study with a teacher, the ways of spirituality. Now, these young men would stay with their gurus for about 12 years, and they would learn all the teachings of what these spiritual seers saw and heard and felt during meditation. And those are the things, the poems, the verses, they were always orally transmitted up until about the 6th or 7th century AD, or Common Era. For a couple thousand years and some change, the Upanishads were perfectly memorized by the students for 12 years. And then with some of them that became the teachers, then they passed it on to their students, and so on and so on and so on and so on. One thing I want to tell you about the Upanishads is they are not religious texts. They were texts of self-realization. Now, I talk a lot about self-realization on this channel. I'm going to put a video here that you can check out after this video on the concept of self-realization, which is really the yogic path. So I'd like to talk about the display quote that I put in this book, The 8 Limbs of Yoga for Modern Times. And that display quote is, "Wake up from this dream of separateness." And that is from, and I always have a hard time pronouncing this one, so bear with me please, the Shaivatashvatara Upanishad. And so we're going to refer back to this. I'm going to read a little bit of a bigger passage of this Upanishad for you, so that you can get a flavor of the meaning behind wake up from this dream of separateness, what that indicates. Now, again, I want you to remember this is not based on a religion. This was created before Hinduism even existed. Most of the world 4,000 years ago were living in some sort of pagan or nature worship type of religion, if any. The other thing I want to talk about when I refer to ancient Vedic texts or ancient Indian philosophy or yoga philosophy is that these texts were translated from Sanskrit. And of course, English does not have the perfect words to describe what was in Sanskrit or any other language. So if you hear words that sound religious, for example, God is referred to as God, Source, Brahman, the Self, the Lord of Life, the Lord of Love. And that immediately takes you to religion, probably a Judeo-Christian type religion. But just know that these were translations, right? They tried their best to translate in the best way possible so that people reading in English could understand. Here is the passage that I'm referring to. All is change in the world of the senses, but changeless is the supreme Lord of love. Meditate on him, be absorbed in him. Wake up from this dream of separateness. I'm going to read another passage real quickly. Know God and all fetters will fall away. No longer identifying yourself with the body, go beyond birth and death. All your desires will be fulfilled in him who is one without a second. Okay, I'm going to stop there because this is really what I want to talk about. All your desires will be fulfilled in him. Now, you don't have to use the word him. You could use the word the self. All desires will be fulfilled in unconditional love. All desires will be fulfilled in unity consciousness, right? Who is one without second. So we are talking about unity consciousness, universal consciousness, that all is one. And this is the major theme, the major topic of this video. I was raised as a Catholic. Initially, I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school for 12 years. I was raised by a very strict Catholic mother. I went to church all the time. I followed the sacraments. And when I became an adult, I was still very involved in Catholicism, the Catholic Church, the Catholic teachings. Now, around age 34, I began to attend a Protestant, non-denominational Christian Bible church, and that is where I stayed put for the next 10 to 12, 15 years maybe. So that is my background. That is my basis. At the same time, I learned yoga when I was 18, and I studied yoga philosophy from age 35 and up. At the same time that I was practicing Catholicism and Christianity, I was also practicing yoga philosophy and studying it. And so you can see how these two systems, while very different, somehow converged in my own life and my own existence. The more I studied the pathway to self-realization, especially in the past 10 years or so, the more I realized that most religions have got it wrong. Now, for me, I really didn't want to reject Christianity. I didn't want to reject my religion because it meant something to me. However, I could not deny when I began raising a lot of questions, probably around the age of 35, when I began to raise a lot of questions about the rules, the regulations, the dogma of Christianity, and how some of it just did not make sense to me when you're looking at it from a self-realized perspective. Most religions, in fact, all monotheistic religions, teach you that you and God are separate. This is something that exists in Judaism, Christianity, Catholicism, which is Christianity, and of course, Islam, and other religions as well. They teach you that you're down here on earth and God is somewhere up there. Now, depending on the faction, the religion, or even the faith of the religion that you follow, because of course, if you're a Christian, you know that there's like a billion interpretations of Christianity. So you could be Episcopalian or Presbyterian or Baptist or Catholic, right? So there are so many different interpretations and different rules and regulations that you must follow in order to gain favor with God. So there is this sense of God as the patriarch, God as the Almighty Father, the father figure, and that you are separate from God and that you must gain favor with God to be in his good graces. Now, some of these teachings, if not all of these teachings, also say you have a piece of God within you. So there is that truth there, that there is a piece of God within you, and you are part of God, and we are all brothers and sisters, and we are all a piece of God. So we are all connected to God. But most religions teach you that you and God are separate, that you must do things in order to gain God's favor, that God is somehow doling out the goodies, and that if you're good, you get the goods, and if you're not good, you don't get the goods. And so that God is up there keeping score as to whether or not you're doing A, B, or C things. And of course, every religion is going to tell you something different. So they might say if you abstain from eating meat on Fridays during Lent, then you get good brownie points and you are in God's good grace, you're in God's good favor. But if you don't, then watch out because God might strike you down. My mother would always say when I was growing up, watch out because God is going to punish you if you do A, B, or C. And that changed all the time. So there was this fear of God as the patriarch, God as the angry father, or as the punishing father, or the judging father that was always keeping score, always keeping tabs, and that you were separate from God and that you had to do something, anything, follow the rules to the exactitude of the rules in order to gain God's favor. Now, this is problematic because when we came here as beautiful souls wanting to have a human experience, we knew that there would be a dualistic nature, meaning there would always be choices of doing A or B things, right? We always had constant choices to be made. Now, a lot of these choices are not black or white choices. There are a lot of gray area in between choices. But when we came here, we knew that there would be this dichotomy. There would be this world of choices, this choice making, this conscious choice making that we would actually have to endure for the entirety of our lifetime. And as I mentioned, most of those choices are not black or white choices. There are always areas of gray in between. However, religious dogma wants you to believe that you are separate from God, that God is the judge, the almighty, the all-powerful judge, the stern father that wants you to look at things as black and white. So it's either you don't have sex before marriage or you have sex before marriage and you are bad or you are condemned. There's no gray area in between. So there are many rules, regulations, and things like that, but it constantly reinforces the notion that I can never be in unity with God until I die. And when I die, there is a judgment. When I die, there's St. Peter at the gates and he's got the tally, and the tally's going to let him know if I'm allowed up there or not. And so when we live our lives like this, we're in constant fear of this separateness. And they even call it the fear of God. They call it the fear of God. Have the fear of God within you. But self-realization, the Upanishads, tries to teach you through what the ancient yogis, the ancient seers, the ancient meditators before the internet, before Google, before written books, things were maybe written on tablets 4,000 years ago, but they certainly were not in libraries and bookstores and Amazon, and you couldn't Google this stuff. These were men mostly, as I mentioned. There were women who were nuns or monks, if you will, but mostly men who would sit for hours upon hours upon hours to hear these truths about connectedness to source. And that's what they taught through poetry and song. And so they knew these universal truths to be true. And they taught that there is no separateness between you and God. There is no separateness between you and source. Separateness is but an illusion, and that's what they refer to as Maya. Maya is the illusion of separateness, the illusion that you and God are separate, that God's over there doing something and judging you, and that you're just here having to kind of fend for yourself and always having to choose to do the right thing. Otherwise, you're never going back. You're never going back to source. That's it. You're going to be punished. You're going to be condemned. You're going to go to purgatory or go to hell or whatever. So the Upanishads teach you is that dream of separateness, when you entered into this earth plane, when you were born through your mother, that you immediately took on a personality and ego, which are not bad, by the way. I do talk about that in other videos, and I might post one here about the ego, but I also write about it in many of my books, notably The 8 Limbs of Yoga for Modern Times and Heal Yourself, A Return to Wholeness. So the personality and the ego are not bad. It's just what you take on when you incarnate with this physical body, which is necessary. But it gives you the illusion that you are now no longer unified with source consciousness, with spirit, with God, that you are no longer in unity with. And while this is a temporary situation, you being on earth in this physical plane for about 70 to maybe 100 years, if you're lucky or not lucky, I don't know how you would consider 100 years to be. But you're here for such a short duration of time. But in that time, if you can come to the realization that, oh yeah, I agreed to do this, my soul agreed to this, to come here, to have this human experience and to be rooted in unconditional love so that I could fully immerse myself in this experience in the present moment, to see how I can expand consciousness through my life experiences. And it was never to fret and to worry the entire 70 years to 100 years about how I'm separate from God and I got to win God's graces and I need to do the right things all the time, 100% every single time, or I'm never going to be unified with source again. That is untrue. That is not true. That is based on fear and not based on love. And that's what religions want you to believe. Now, that might lead you to your next natural question after my rant on this, in reading to you that passage in the Upanishads, that it truly is this idea of I'm separate, I'm worried about being separate. What if I make the wrong choices? What if I'm a sinner? What if I do too many bad things? That might lead you to the question is, why do I, Michelle Fondin, writer and talker, speaker of spirituality, why am I okay with religion? Like, why is that okay with me? Why do I still think it's a good idea? The reason I think it's a good idea is that I feel in my heart of hearts that a segue to raising consciousness and spirituality is getting you in front of God, is getting you in front of miracles and goodwill and charity and helping other people and community. So I feel for many people who may not be ready in this lifetime to go full-on self-realization, because if you're watching this, you might be prepared to go full-on self-realization, but not everybody in this lifetime is ready to go on full-on self-realization, religion is a good stepping stone. It's a good stepping stone. So even if it does give you some of that guilt, shame, and blame, which is definitely lower energy frequencies, it also gives you glimpses into God's goodwill and goodness, especially through the New Testament if you're Christian, especially through community and acts of service if you're in any other type of religion, because it's always about people coming together and trying to do the best thing they can for others, building community, doing works of charity, helping the poor, helping people who are less fortunate than you. So of course, there is goodwill, and goodwill is God, right? Good and God are synonymous. Like Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say, I want to feel good. I want to feel good, meaning I want to feel God, because God is good. The goodness of source, unconditional love is good. So I do believe that if there is a choice between nothingness, you are all alone out here to fend for yourself in this dog-eat-dog world, and to be in a religious organization that's going to help you feel unity and community, because really unity is what God is about. Even if it's not 100%, it's still better than feeling like you're all alone out in the world having to fend for yourself. But of course, I believe, having been through all these stages, that once you get to the pathway to self-realization and you realize that you and God are not separate, you and Source are not separate, you and unconditional love are not separate, that's when the real miracles begin to occur in your life and in the lives of others around you, because your light will definitely influence that. Jesus of Nazareth, who performed miracle upon miracle, knew that he and God are not separate. And so that is why he was able to perform so many miracles, because around him, all doubt was banished. And when doubt is banished, then miracles can exist, right? Miracles have a hard time existing around a bunch of doubt. So just think of it as an energy frequency. So there is more to come on this. This is just dipping the toe into the Upanishads, the sacred Vedic texts. And awakening from your dream of separateness is you and God are not separate. You and Source are not separate. You and God are one. And when you live from that place of oneness, you are the miraculous. You are living a miracle. You are the miracle. And the more you can reinforce this notion, your life will become better, better, and better. And you will be able to help raise the vibration of others around you, because you are rooted in this vibration. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today on this little educational rant of why I believe religions have got it wrong most of the time. I want to thank you so much for your support of my YouTube channel. You can purchase one of my 12 published books. You can join my meditation course, and hey, I've got a bonus course, a great course that is upcoming, so do stay tuned for that announcement. Thank you for sharing this with other spiritual seekers. Thank you for subscribing. If you're not yet subscribed, click on the bell and give the video a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video.